Note the disclaimer.
$52 seconds for 2 logos. That is f***ing inflation. What if we made a movie called How to Trim Your Logos?
So you're saying you'd prefer not to know who made this movie, even though you know it's DreamWorks with Universal? Would you like this rule to be applied everywhere? Because that means your logo will have to disappear from the intros too.
I mean, when you called it the hidden world, I thought that maybe it was a metaphor. I haven't seen this much fog and fire obscuring the action since I went to that Rammstein show we no longer talk about.
Jeremy says something random cliche. Also, what action? This is just a guy walking around some occupied dragon cages. Meanwhile, it appears later, and we can see it just fine. Maybe I'll need to see if I can get you an optometrist appointment.
That's really just a nitwit who forgot to fireproof his butt.
Man, Kirk Cameron is going to be so pissed when he finds out how I fireproofed my butt.
Is that supposed to be funny? Did anyone laugh at this? Huh, strange. I'm not seeing any hands raised.
But at least nobody else knows we're here.
The character is woefully unaware that the definitive statement they are making is contradicted by hilarious evidence that the audience can see cliché.
Okay, and? Can you explain to me why that is wrong? Instead of just pointing it out on the screen like this?
Look at this weirdo. Bet it's super dumb.
Yes, it is. It could easily fit through these cage bars and save itself.
Huh, look at that. You explained the joke Roughnut was making. Good for you.
Why can't I get this cage open?
It slides.
Obviously.
It does not slide. It opens on a hinge, just the way you thought it would. The problem is, it was locked, and the lock slides. This may seem like a minor difference, but hi, I'm Jeremy. Welcome to my CinemaSins.
How do you know Astrid wasn't referring to the lock? My goodness, you'd have to have the combined intelligence of a pile of mashed potato and a saucer of gravy to miss that. Actually, no, I shouldn't say that. That would be offensive to potatoes and gravy.
Also, I can get behind a story arc where a cluster of a raid party needs maturation, but I can't get behind bringing along a person who isn't able to comprehend the basic function of a cage door.
Much like how Vader did, I'd like to remind you that this is Roughnut you're talking about here. One half of the famously dim-witted Thorsten twins. This is accurate to her character. But then I have to remind myself that you missed the sibling rivalry in the first film, and if you do that again for the live action, I'm going to lose it faster than a monstrous nightmare.
What took these guys so long? We saw them 30 seconds ago, charging on the deck of the boat, and they only now came in for the attack?
Charging, huh? Yep, that's what he said. Charging. Jeremy, these soldiers were sneaking up on them.
Oh, stop worrying. They'll get us.
And I'm so sure that I'm totally willing to put their actual lives on the line, so I can sit here and just offer commentary.
Save it for your autobiography, dude. Secondly, Valka is talking to Cloudjumper, who is getting concerned about the raid not going as it should, and everyone getting in trouble in one form or another. Not the audience, or to herself. Also, 1 year has passed since the second film, and they've been doing similar stuff to this for 6 years up to this point. This isn't their first rodeo, is what I'm saying.
The one thing about the jumping to your death but your ship dragon is there waiting for you bit that I can't quite wrap my head around is when do they plan these maneuvers?
Off screen, just before the raid began.
This is Burke.
Okay, fine. It's not technically narration, but since...
No mercy. I don't want to hear whatever cockamamie excuse you've come up with. Sinning this is Burke. Also saying it isn't narration, but still saying it anyway. To quote Captain Vader here, because I can't come up with something clever, that's cheating!
And the locals are as colorful as you get.
Me, look at this sensory overload. It's like the primary color paint can aisle blew its load on a birdhouse convention during a bug swarm.
One of these days, Jeremy will end up making one video where he doesn't make an inappropriate comment. Like, really, it would have been far less gross to say the artist sneezed and his palette went all over the canvas. It would have avoided being sinned, too! But since you said what you said, I have to do what needs to be done.
Let's be real. These people have to play Frogger on the backs of dragons to avoid walking waist deep in dragon.
There's no dragon on the ground here. It's shoveled away before anyone becomes unfortunate enough to step in it. And even if there was, how would that be a sin? Secondly, you used the wrong waist in your script. It's supposed to be waist deep. Thirdly, I don't know why you put Frogger in the middle of this, but put him back where he belongs. He is not happy.
Also, maintaining a dragon population of this size must wallop Burke's economy to a degree that can only be ignored by the movies. The upkeep, the food supply, the space, and everything else must be a nightmare. Plus, at least 4 or 5 of these dragons have got to be jerks, right?
For the third bloody time in this series, this is how they operate. They hunt and forage their own food, they mine and collect their own resources, and sure, the village may be tiny, but the island itself is quite large. Not to mention, Hiccup has blacksmith training and is the chief in this movie. So getting something like this done would basically be over with in minutes, if that.
So, Hiccup's mom, any notes on my bone-crushing assault, or was it pretty much perfect?
The snot-lout hitting on Hiccup's mom storyline promises to be every bit as awkward and uncomfortable as the writers wanted it to be, while maintaining none of the humor they were hoping would be there as well. Also, I just remembered this character's name is Snotlout, and that's absolutely a sin on whoever named him. Did they name their other sons Spitclod and Flummox?
First off, you only just realise this? Even though you seem to understand what Burke means in British English, and mocked Hiccup for his name? Cool, well that's just triply sinful through this entire How to Train Your Dragon run. Secondly, Snotlout is not hitting on Valka. He's trying to impress her so that he could eventually take on the chief role if and when Hiccup, in Snotlout's words, blows it. If this were a faithful adaptation from the books and they made Valka Snotlout's aunt, then yes, I would agree with you, and maybe have taken a sin off. However, it is simply not to be.
God help us!
Taking Thor's name in vain!
Oh, cry me a river, you Thor-forsaken nitwit.
If you need a beard to cry on, just lean on my shoulder and you can cry into my full, thick beard.
This T.J. Miller impersonator needs a lesson on the location of the human shoulder, and to also stop using the words full and thick, like, immediately.
Okay, maybe this guy isn't close in range to T.J. Miller, but that's not what I want to discuss here. What I do want to discuss is that you seem to forget that Toughnut here is the second half of the dim-witted Thorson twins. Lessons on biology would fly over his head faster than a horde of angry nadders chasing a boar.
Eret, son of Eret!
I can't remember my own mother's name, and Hiccup can recognize Eret from a throat clearing? Bull or the f***ing.
Well, hold on. Did you just admit on camera that you don't know your mother's name? Thor's bells, you better pray your mother wasn't watching that video or this one, otherwise you're going over her knee. As for the comment about Hiccup and Eret, well, Vader has a better explanation here.
The throat clearing thing is pretty realistic. I'm able to assign voices I recognize to anyone I know, and Eret has been living with them for a year now. I find this believable.
One day, you're gonna pick a fight you can't win.
This super supportive statement has no payoff. Hiccup, his crew, and the dragons survive every fight they start.
Gobber isn't talking about survival here. For one, when Grimmel arrives, he has the entire island flamed. Secondly, when the gang try to capture Grimmel, he reveals that they were lured into a trap. Thirdly, Toothless ends up being tied up by Grimmel and taken away, leading him to think he's had a victory. That's the payoff that this movie was setting up. Gobber is essentially saying here that not every fight you end up in will lead to a victory. Not that Hiccup or someone he loves will die in battle.
Then the director said, let the character stand in the shadows with only his eyes lit so we know for sure he's evil. You know, since we ran out of apples. Then the director said, what's that? We do have an apple left? Well, let's have him eat it, just in case people weren't sure by the light thing that our villain is truly an asshole.
Oh, this is just delicious. Oh, sorry. I was just enjoying the apple. Like a normal person. Anyway, sorry for jumping around, but this was probably the funniest contradiction I could find around here. Jeremy subverts the expectations by making people think he wasn't going to do this classic apples arseholes gag, and then comes in clutch with a proper one. Possibly to tease his audience, but it doesn't come off quite so well.
A year since Drago's defeat.
Little did anyone know, How to Train Your Dragon 3 is a sequel to Rocky 4 and a prequel to Creed 2. The animators worked very hard to depict 1986 accurately. Can't wait until they show us how Drago thunder punched Chernobyl after a nuclear accident and saved the lives of millions.
So, two characters share the same name, and that constitutes a sin?
Da-da-da, we're doomed.
The flock is protected by a night fury.
I know we're in Viking times here, but how the does Grimmel not know about the Night Fury?
Objection misleading. He knows about the Night Fury species, since he is the self-proclaimed Night Fury Killer. His surprise is over learning that one is still alive, since because of him, they're an endangered species.
This dragon is within mere feet of Grimmel as he approaches, but suddenly way far back when the shot changes to the side view, and he is supremely confident that his knockout arrow will put this huge animal to sleep before it crashes into him.
Okay, if you just stopped at Grimmel and the dragon's distance difference between angle changes, you have a legitimate sin. But no, you had to criticize Grimmel for being confident about his dart working. Much like Drago in the previous film, this is to build up how intimidating Grimmel can be, given how smart he is.
It was the home of your grandparents, and their grandparents before them.
Your grandparents' parents lived in Iowa, but we don't talk about them.
Jeremy, this is a Scandinavian country in the 8th century. Iowa wasn't even founded by that point, as well as the fact that they've lived in this village for 7 generations!
Out there, beyond the sunset, lies the home of the dragons.
This flashback is sweet and all, but wouldn't Hiccup have remembered this conversation with his father during the first 2 movies? Wouldn't that have been major motivation for plot lines and decisions before the franchise wanted to wrap this up in a pretty low bow?
No, because until now, importance wasn't on finding the hidden world. The first film was about ending the war between the dragons and humans, and the second was Hiccup learning to accept responsibility. And earlier, Hiccup was being berated by Gobber for prioritizing the influx of dragons over his own village, so this would be the perfect time to remember this conversation and thinking about the hidden world as an option.
Night Fury is a dick to maps. Dick Fury?
Where are you going with this, Jeremy?
5 full minutes of dragon flirting.
Oh, just let them be, you bitter old man.
At this point, Grimmel can just take Toothless down if he wants. He can kidnap him and put him on an island and hunt him for sport, like The Most Dangerous Game, or that movie with Ice-T called Surviving the Game. But he doesn't do this for reasons unknown.
Reasons unknown? Mate, Grimmel lives for the hunt. Eret says as much when he explains it to Hiccup, Astrid, and Gobber.
He lives for the hunt, to get inside the mind of his prey, to control its every choice. It's all a game to him.
Plus, he sent the Night Fury out to act as bait, since he knows about the fact that Furies mate for life. So by making Toothless fall in love with the Light Fury, that would allow for more enjoyment for Grimmel in terms of catching Toothless whenever he goes searching for her.
This dragon meet cute is so wall-y that I'm half expecting Toothless to start showing her Hello Dolly, using a series of cave drawings any minute now.
Really? Wally? That's the comparison you draw? What, just because of the fact that the love interest is a crisp white with blue eyes? Or because she shot a plasma bolt at a tree? Oh, well, it's going to be fun bringing this up when I end up covering Wally in the future.
Another Night Fury.
It's more like a bright...
A Light Fury.
Yeah, yours is better, probably.
Nope, they are exactly the same amount of okay. Personally, I would have just gone with Discount Eva.
Great, great. So now we're going to continue making comparisons to Wally. Great. Well, if that's the case, then you can put those adorable robots right back where you found them, so I don't have to deal with another freaking phone call.
I swear this movie might as well have been titled National Geographic's How to Mate Your Dragon.
And here we have the Jeremy Scott attempting to sin dragon romance. Almost as if he was jealous about most failed courtships he's previously had. But since the alpha of the CinemaSins species is non-existent, the only way he would have been able to marry is through sheer dumb luck.
Okay, how do you people keep coming in here?
Hiccup finds a sleeping dart, he manages to locate a trap, then he says...
He can't be that smart, he left his trap unmanned.
And then animated Jon Snow says...
Nothing's accidental when it comes to old Grimmel.
But this is never explained. It's almost like the movie was using this as a reason to explain who Grimmel was, despite Grimmel's actions making no sense.
Ah, so you aren't paying attention. Okay, well this once again is not something for one of us or even the movie's directors to hold your hand through. You have to strap on your big boy pants and figure it out for yourself. Anyway, you can look at the prompter here for Sin 28, because I'm not going to repeat myself here.
Also, setting aside that Grimmel doesn't seem like the kind of megalomaniac that would forget to pick up a dart, when did it even get here in the first place?
My guess is, in a rush to get the trap set up last night as he knew that Toothless would come back to this location looking for the Light Fury, Grimmel must have dropped the tranquilizer dart there on purpose, probably for someone searching for what happened.
I know this handiwork. Grimmel the Grizzly. Famous back where I'm from.
So famous that every person there studied his dart designs for maximum plot convenience?
Well, yes, because Eret mentions that he's the best dragon hunter he's crossed paths with. So therefore, would understand his weaponry and how it operates, like I showed earlier.
He lives for the hunt.
Movie justifies Grimmel's procrastination in killing Toothless by saying he lives for the hunt, which will in no way make this movie any more thrilling. Toothless is essentially a domesticated puppy dog, so trying to make hunting him exciting is just this movie's way of giving the protagonist a chance to win.
I swear to Thor, this has to be the worst case of flip-flopping I've ever seen from Jeremy. You said Grimmel didn't trap Toothless immediately for no explained reason, but then show the evidence moments after. So much like Vader said, why didn't you go back and edit that scene out? Or just delete it altogether?
You have no idea who I am, do you?
No, but you're using a vaguely Transylvanian accent and appearing out of the darkness, so I'm gonna guess Dracula. Are you Dracula? Count Chocula then?
Ooh, that was hard to watch.
I am the Night Fury killer. I've hunted every last one but yours.
Is everyone just gonna keep pretending that the Light Fury isn't just a female Night Fury? What the hell kind of semantic games are we playing here?
That's because they're different species here, Jeremy. They may look the same, but the fact that Night Furies generally seem to be more powerful than Light Furies, it would make sense for Grimmel to go after them.
Did we get him?
This kid's been pumped with enough sleepy poison to put a dragon to bed. How is he standing, let alone speaking a coherent thought?
One, he wasn't standing, and secondly, cartoon logic.
Also, even though the surprise of the double power twist is clever, it does leave me wondering how you knew the exact night he would be making this visit, and why you wouldn't use that foreknowledge to a better advantage, maybe involving traps and dragons and such.
Why would Grimmel come another night? And why would they assume as such? Hiccup underestimates Grimmel here, and the consequences of that lead to the chain of events that nearly spell Hiccup's downfall. His house gets burned down, and he nearly loses his dragon.
This is Burke.
From here on out, Hiccup is now banned from saying "this is Burke" ever again. He's already said it 19 times in this movie alone, although I'm not good at counting, so it's probably more.
Oh, fuck you. That's another 20 right there. Also, that's rich coming from the guy who constantly says boner, lap dance, apples to assholes, and the misuse of Deus Ex Machina in all of his videos. Also, it sounds like you are bad at counting, because throughout this entire franchise, he only says it 12 times. And in this movie, much like the first and second ones, he only says it twice.
Burke, where dragons and humans live in harmony, unless there's a midnight attack, in which case all human screams and evil dragon squawking fall on deaf ears.
You do realise there hasn't been a midnight attack since the dragons and Vikings made peace, right? Not to mention, despite Hiccup's home being the only one we see so far with the most damage, the evidence on a wide shot shows us that Grimmel ambushed the entire village.
I say Burke is wherever we go.
Huh, just like Asgard and Thor Ragnarok. Maybe this movie was being made before that movie came out, but it's f***ing weird, especially with all the references to mythological Thor.
Well, yes, these Vikings believe in Thor, Asgard, Valhalla, everything associated with Norse legends. But then again, I'm a little bit lost as to how that's something wrong with this movie. Or did you just want to make another pop culture reference? Okay, this ends now.
Gods! People who fly with babies are the worst!
Here's a completely inorganic airplane joke. The baby isn't doing anything annoying, the person flying with the baby isn't doing anything annoying.
I hate to cut you off there, Jeremy, but you say that over fish meat the baby Gronkle Fish Legs is carrying, shooting a fireball at Snotlout.
I introduced him to your female. Fury's mate for life, you see.
Right, but she's also free to stay, so I'm still shaky on how this is supposed to benefit you.
The idea is for Toothless to pursue her, which gives Grimmel the perfect opportunity to trap him. Also, the Light Fury doesn't want to stay.
Therefore, they've gone. They can only have gone. Does anyone want to take a guess?
Grimmel tries to make people he knows are stupid guess the direction of Hiccup and the others for an infuriatingly long time.
I wouldn't say all of them are stupid. At least 2 of them are just impatient. Besides, he took away north, south, and east, basically spelling it out for them, so the real sin should be that even with this simplicity, one of the conquerors still got it wrong.
Is there a problem here?
You mean that the movie has time for this completely uninteresting and unfunny side story? Yeah, I'd consider it a problem.
Double dipping.
5 full minutes of dragon flirting, the sequel.
Maybe we should find you another hobby.
How to Roxanne your dragon.
You leave Sting and the police out of this.
How does Hiccup know the Night Fury mating dance?
He doesn't. He's making it up. That's the joke.
Double Dragon desire drags on as Dorky Dragon deftly draws Demure Dragon, drawing out Dragon dating denouement and delaying Dragon debauchery.
Alliterative amateur archaically eschews adjective and adverb assignment abhorrently.
Toothless can't fly without assistance, which is tantamount to being literally unable to get it up.
No. We're not going there.
5 full minutes of dragon flirting, the goddamn trilogy.
Where would we be without Jeremy pointing things out on the screen every 5 seconds?
I know, right? It's so cool that he's here to tell us what's happening for us.
Well, we'd be doing other things.
Less annoyed for sure.
Hold up, Jeremy. Aren't you the same YouTuber who always makes college girlfriend jokes and not only that, always makes sexual jokes for family-oriented movies? That's a bit weird, don't you think?
Okay, fair point.
One day you'll have to snip those apron strings and let Toothless stretch his wings.
I'm not sure it's exactly his wings that he's been stretching. I get that this is a family film and all, but I'm not the one that decided to make dragon f***ing a major plot point.
And yet it isn't. You're just inferring it. So let's just add more to the total and move on.
Chin up, Hickey. Puff out that chest. Move that butt to the left a little bit.
There may be more filler in this movie than actual movie.
Says the guy constantly padding the sin count.
Gotcha. Even in cartoons, when somebody grabs a person in midair with one hand without physics taking over and making them fall as well, it's a sin.
And yet you fail to realise why cartoon logic exists.
We left her behind? How could you not notice she was missing? You ride a two-headed dragon.
Astrid would be amazing at CinemaSins.
Oof, that's a bit of a turnaround after you said this about her in the first movie.
Figure out which side you're on.
Okay, Astrid seems like kind of a dick.
But since Astrid, much like you, forgot how stupid Tough Nut is, yeah, she'd fit in really well. But then she'd also make really great points and get fired.
You gave him his freedom, Hiccup. What were you expecting?
He was expecting Toothless to obey his best bud. He did say,
"Bring her on by sundown at the latest."
For Thor's sake.
Hey, that's my line. All jokes aside though, he was expecting that, but like Vader said, that's not realistic. I mean, when dogs or cats are in heat, you can't really expect them back until later. And in this instance, Toothless can now fly on his own again after 6 years, save for a few days during Snoggletalk preparations, of having to use an apparatus controlled by foot triggers.
You can tell you're somewhere important and magical from the way the bioluminescence reacts to your presence.
Someone's never frolicked in an ocean full of plankton. Still, I'm glad you didn't mention Abbott's.
Thanks, Avatar.
Oh, shit on a shingle.
Toothless. You'll spook them.
Or maybe he'll alert a dragon horde to your fleshy human presence.
Bro, Astrid was literally implying that when she told Hiccup to be quiet. Are you that bad at listening to what other people in a movie say? Oh, partially deaf. Got it.
So if this place has remained hidden from man, why would the happy couple be the only 2 Night Furies left?
Maybe that's because Grimmel exterminated all of the Night Furies except Toothless? And maybe the fact that the Light Fury is a different species despite similarities?
I get that they were hunted down out in the world at large, but none of them stuck around here?
Obviously not, since, like I just said, Toothless is the only one, which Valka mentioned in the second movie, and like Grimmel alluded to earlier before committing arson on Hiccup's home. And Toothless only managed to escape somehow by supposedly hiding in Red Death's nest until Hiccup shot him down.
And if they aren't the only 2, then why would Toothless automatically be king?
Did you even watch the second movie? I know you sinned it, so clearly you should have. But since we're here now, I'll just remind you that the Alpha Dragon, the Bewilderbeast in Valka's ice cave, was the king of all dragons, until he was defeated by Drago's Bewilderbeast, who was then defeated by Toothless. Since the Night Fury won the fight, he now gets the title of King of Dragons, with seemingly the only exception for dragonkind bowing down to him being his girlfriend.
Dad, are you gonna get us a new mom?
Skip!
Oh, you heartless bastard!
If capturing Toothless is this easy, there is no reason he couldn't have done it at the very beginning of the movie.
No, I'm not going any further into this mess. The movie explained Grimmel lives for the hunt, meaning this long game is basically for the major prize. Going in too quickly wouldn't have been as much fun for him, and we wouldn't have a movie. Also, you seem to ignore the fact that Toothless ran directly into a trap here due to him wanting to help the Light Fury after she was shot with a tranq dart.
Also, if his motivation is to kill the Night Furies, why doesn't he just take care of that right now? Or maybe in the next 30 minutes of this movie's pointless climax?
First off, calling the movie's climax pointless. Secondly, he's not killing Toothless right now because the other dragons are coming to rescue him. At least until Toothless halts them, because Grimmel is threatening to kill the Light Fury as well as him. And then he just captures all the rest of the dragons.
Call them off, Alpha! No reason for her to die, too!
Wasn't Toothless just shot with sleeping venom? I mean, I faked being asleep to avoid conversations with my wife, too, but this isn't the time for that.
What? Jeez, don't let Angela see your video, or this one either, because otherwise you might be slapped with divorce papers instantly. Also, this answers your previous question, and you're just glossing over it.
I've never lived on a tall island in the middle of the ocean where my tribe is attempting to hide from dragon raiders, but if I did, I'm pretty sure I would have seen this fleet coming from far enough away that this whole surprise drop-in scenario wouldn't have worked at all.
Oh, don't you try and flex your hyper-observance now. It's not going to work on me. And no one was able to see it because the rest of the village was further inland, the fleet was following Roughnut, who, quote, never looks back, and Hiccup and Astrid were distracted by the events in the hidden world and by the Light Fury coming back.
He listened to you.
Should he, though? Last night, Astrid opted to take Hiccup to find Toothless, rather than encourage his individual strength. And when they found Toothless, the very symbol of Hiccup's crippling self-doubt, she opts out of a "you're just as good as he is" pep talk and swings to an ego stabbing.
Now that's a king.
My point is, Astrid's an asshole.
Ah, here you go, calling her an asshole again. Well, I guess I'll just rip this application up then. And again, Vader has the better explanation, but in short, being in the hidden world wasn't the best time to bring this up, as opposed to now, back on the surface.
Toothless manages to roar loud enough instructions to this giant dragon while wearing a harness that keeps his mouth shut. That is amazing ventriloquism.
Bruh, the muzzle isn't keeping his mouth closed all the way.
Seriously, these fighters are going to take on a horde of, well, equally fighters and win, but this is a numbers game and they shouldn't win it.
Well, if anything, these warlords are kind of a downgrade of the Dragon Hunter group led by Vigo Grimborn back when the riders were 18. Not to mention they release the dragons and are assisted by Valka, Eret, and Gobber anyway. So can you explain to me how they're supposed to lose?
This dragon manages to headbutt Hiccup so far he's able to reach Grimmel's glider, which is lucky ass, but even more lucky ass is how he finds the one spot on this thing that isn't burnt.
Something something lucky, something something yak dung. Would that be the gist of it?
Let's just see who he follows!
If this miracle dragon mind control drug is this immediately effective, why wouldn't the first move just be to mind control the alpha?
Because he's going to kill the alpha. Pay attention, Jeremy.
How are we gonna get him off her back without hurting her?
Orgy problems.
Yuck! You really had to say that about something that you dubbed a kids movie?
See that there? Oh, cute.
You're cursed! These hobgobblers have been a recurring mystery this entire movie. Is this their big payoff? Eating a ship Langolier style? Are we not going to have an explanation for why they duplicate? Why only some people can see them? And why they're considered a bad omen above any other destructive dragon?
That's the joke.
Come on, writers, you can do better than that. What if they only appeared to people who are about to die, and their final act is to spare them their worst fate? See? I just made your movie better, and I'm naked on a couch drinking yesterday's fermented sweet tea.
I don't know about all of you in the audience, but I wouldn't take advice from someone admitting to something like that.
Why does this lightning power throw these dragons off, but Hiccup is just fine? I'd say it might be his dragon scale armor, except I'm pretty sure that dragon scale armor is also found on, dragons.
What you seem to miss here is that Hiccup's armor, being made out of Toothless's loose scales, makes him just as able to withstand Toothless's lightning ability, while the other dragons cannot. Excepting the squirrel, but that's a story for another time.
Oh, look at this convenient island crag that will now allow the Light Fury to save Toothless and quickly, while also being able to turn around and save Hiccup before he crashes to the ground. You gotta love them island crags.
Sinning luck again. Also, Hiccup was about to hit the ocean, not the ground.
Easily removable garment, or in this case leg, that someone is holding onto is detached so that now they can no longer hold on, cliché.
To quote Grandy Tomias again, Jeremy invents a cliché that he'll only ever use for this one-time cliché.
Go, Toothless. Go.
Damn it, this movie is all sorts of a mess, but this relationship is legit. Take your sin off while I go find a tissue, you bastard.
Agree with the sin removal, disagree that you call this movie a mess. I get it. A lot of people don't really like this movie as much as the first and second ones. But really, Really?
Damn, this movie is taking a long time to end. I agree it's both sad and happy that Toothless is leaving and that he's going to be the Hidden World's Lion King, but this ending is getting drawn out longer than The Lord of the Rings 3.
Thoughts a viewer has watching a CinemaSins video.
Hey there, bud.
I brought my young children with me on this dangerous journey in hopes that you were still tame enough not to devour them.
Dragons never did that unless they felt threatened. Cloudjumper didn't try to eat or carry away baby Hiccup. Toothless is essentially an overgrown puppy dog in this movie. He's going to recognize Hiccup's scent.
Removing all the sins if Toothless burns down this boat and laughs.
Great Odin's ghost, that's dark. What the f***, man? And no, Toothless wouldn't do that.
Legend says that when the ground quakes or lava spews from the earth, it's the dragons, letting us know they're still here.
Legend also says that it's plate tectonics.
Sitting this line. And with that, court is adjourned. Be sure to leave any more suggestions for CinemaSins sins down below, and I will see you all in the next video.